Hey Coleman, what are we going to talk about in the podcast today?
Hey, I'm Coleman, and I built a launch monitor at home so that you can too.
Welcome back to Lying by Golf, the podcast exploring the connections and journeys of people lying by the game. I'm your host Ross McGuire, and this week I'm joined by Coleman Rollins, a keen amateur golfer who's embarked on a journey to build his own launch monitor. In this episode, we discuss Coleman's love for golf and how his project is progressing so far. Let's go over to Coleman. Hey Coleman, thanks for joining the podcast. How are you doing?
Hey, good, Russ. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure, and we're going to jump straight in, Coleman. So, you've been posting on Instagram about your journey with building a launch monitor of your own. I'd love you to tell the listeners at a high level how you're getting on with that and what took you down that path.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think every couple of months as a golfer in the community these days, we see all kinds of launch monitors coming across our feeds. And every few months I would think about, what do I need to buy one? I kind of want one. I would use it. But every time I went through this exercise, I realized that they're either too expensive for the really nice ones, or the cheap ones aren't very good, or they require subscriptions to use, which is another financial burden. And in my experience, the software for all of them is not very good. And myself, I'm a software engineer, and I thought, well, maybe I'll give this a try. I'll see if I can build my own, and started posting on social media, and everyone is really into it.
Absolutely. And Coleman, we've jumped straight in. We've jumped straight to the part that we're going to talk about right through the podcast, but you've clearly got an American accent. So, where are you from and what took you into the game in the first place?
Yeah. So I grew up in the state of Minnesota in the States, in the major city, Minneapolis. And I grew up caddying at a country club there, right in Minneapolis from the age of 13, I think. So I was around the game a lot every day in the summer, and working at a country club back then, all the members had all the new gear all the time. And, I got to know the professionals working at the club. I got to know the teaching guys. And eventually I kind of transitioned to working in the pro shop and, cleaning the golf carts and driving the range picker around. And, that job was just amazing. It got me on the golf course every single day, and it got me around some really good golfers who I learned a lot from.
Brilliant. And how much did you play when you started at the country club? I guess maybe not much at the start, but how much did you play as time went on?
Yeah, not much at the start, but as I kind of grew older and made my way to college, I kind of kept my 1 day a week range cleanup job just so I could keep my golf privileges. And
Brilliant.
I was playing all the time, man. 2, 3 nights a week. I was getting out and I was hitting balls every day at the driving range there. I would just love going there by myself in the evening, and I could spend the whole day at the driving range.
So, because you were working at the country club, you got to hit balls anytime you wanted, basically, outside
Yes.
working hours.
Yes, exactly.
That's a dream job when you're that age, eh?
It is. It is incredible, man. And of course, the range was beautiful and the balls were nice and it was perfect.
And do you still live in the Minnesota area, or have you moved elsewhere in the States now?
So I spent about 9 years living in Chicago and working there. And then my wife and I have been in Seattle now on the west coast of the States for about 4 years.
And do you play a lot at the moment? I know you're in the launch monitor, so you must be hitting some balls anyway, but do you get to play much these days?
I do. Yeah. I'm playing honestly more than ever because the season is so much longer out here. And tomorrow morning, I'm actually going to Bandon Dunes with some friends.
Nice.
So I'm very excited for that. It's going to be a little chilly, a little rainy, but that's okay. And yeah, the season is just so long out here. It's great.
And I noticed recently, did I see you posting you played Chambers Bay where they had, I guess, the US Open, right? That was your Spieth one. Were you playing
That's
there?
right. That's right. Yeah. One of my good friends is a member out there, and I've played there probably a dozen times at this point, and it's a really special place.
So what's Chambers Bay like? I mean, we saw it many, many years ago when Spieth won. What's it like to actually play when you're an amateur and you're a good golfer, but what's it actually like when you get there?
Yeah, it's one of the most incredible views that you can get in this side of the country. It's right on the Puget Sound, and it's a very interesting golf course because it's very wide open off the tee, and so you can get it can trick you into think you're playing really well because you're hitting a lot of fairways, but the greens and the slopes around the greens are really, really tricky. And oftentimes your score will rely on whether or not you got the right bounce one direction or the other, because there's a lot to learn about the complexes of the greens and how they work. It's a great
Fantastic.
golf course.
And is there any other courses in the Seattle area that you tend to play quite a bit at the moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say most of the good courses that I like are south of the city. There's another one right in the shadow of Mount Rainier called the Home Course that I really like. And I'm still trying to network my way to get to some of the other really nicer clubs like Sahali Country Club, which is where they had the Women's PGA Championship last year.
I
There's a
think
lot of really good
DJ
ones.
Singh won the PGA Championship there many years ago. I'm sure that's
Yeah,
the
that's right.
PGA one. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And then in terms of access to the courses, I guess a lot are sort of country clubs and stuff, but do you have here in the UK, we've got this notion of having like open competitions where you can go and play at a course and it's reduced green free and reduced green fee. And anyone from any club in the area or anywhere actually with a handicap of a certain level can join that competition and play. Is that something you get in the States and in the Washington area?
Not as much as I would like. That sounds really great, but unfortunately my tournament opportunities are only a couple every summer.
Right.
There's the state amateur and the state mid amateur.
Okay.
And then I also sometimes play some tournaments on a smaller scale, but I wish we had that.
Yeah. And do you ever do like member guests and stuff like that? Do you get access to those kind of
Uh,
things?
I don't yet have a good member friend to tap in for that, but soon, hopefully soon.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear the difference between the UK and the US. I mean, the US is very country club centric. I know there's still a reasonable number of public courses, but
Hmm.
we're very lucky in the UK. There's of course many, I guess, hard to get into golf clubs and expensive to get into golf clubs, but there's still, especially I would say in Scotland and the wider parts of the UK away from the London area, there's a lot of courses you can just rock up and play, and membership isn't that expensive, and it's not a massive barrier into the game.
That's really great. That's really
Yeah,
great.
we'll need to get you over here for a game. That's one thing we can work on.
That's right. Please do.
So
I would
then,
love that.
Coleman, we got you on here to talk about launch monitors. And just before we started the pod, you did your famous tagline. So you basically you wanted to build a launch monitor so other people can as well on a kind of open source basis. But I'd love to know, you talked just at the start about the idea, the concept. But where do you begin? How does it actually start? What do you start with? And what's the first thing or the first things you need to do when you want to build your own launch monitor?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, to start with, there's two main categories of launch monitors. There's ones that are based on radar, and there's ones that are based on camera. And I initially chose radar because, for one, it's cheaper. The equipment required is cheaper. And two, it's a little bit quicker to get going. At least that's what I thought. I've learned a lot since then, but that was kind of where I started was, okay, I need to figure out how to work a radar. And by chance, one of my oldest friends from college is a PhD radar guy.
Oh, that would tell.
Yeah, and so he has been a huge resource for me, very helpful in learning the technology and figuring this out. So I ran the idea by him. He was super into it. He was really excited about the idea.
Brilliant. And is he a golfer? Just to ask, is he someone that plays golf?
Unfortunately not,
Right.
but he said he wants to try and publish a paper on this technology of radar launch monitors. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. Um So yeah, man, I chose radar. I ran the idea by him, and I I went to my favorite AI companion, Claude, and I said, I need to run a radar. I'm thinking about this and that. Like, what parts do I need? And then I started going.
So what parts do you need then? What do you attach the radar to, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So the radar, our computer, our brain of the device is a Raspberry Pi, which
Fantastic.
for the listeners who might not know is just a small computer. And it's great. It's small and compact, but the computing power of it is limited.
Yeah.
So there are some limitations with the Raspberry Pi, but that's where I started. And there's a huge ecosystem of Raspberry Pi technology and components that are available for a really cheap price. So that was the choice that made sense.
Right. And then once you've got it, I guess, hooked up to a Raspberry Pi, where do you go from there? Are you literally just putting this radar down at a driving range and hitting some balls and seeing what actually comes up on the screen? How does that work?
Yeah, you just turn it on and see what you get. So what's fascinating and what I've learned about radars is that every single thing that the radar detects has a very unique shape in the data.
Right.
And so you can imagine the signals coming back from the radar as kind of waves. And the nature of the radar I'm using is called a Doppler radar.
Yeah.
And so it sends out radar waves and they bounce back off of things. And then we can see like the strength of how they bounce back and the frequency and etc.
And that never stops. Once it's switched on, it's constant. There's radar being sent permanently, effectively, out of that device.
Yes, exactly. And the phenomenon of Doppler radars, when a ambulance or a police car drives by you and their sirens are on and the sound kind of changes pitch when it goes by you.
Yeah.
It's like ew, that's that the physics involved in that is called a Doppler shift. And
Right.
depending on how much that shift changes, we can calculate how fast that thing is going.
Right.
So that's what this whole radar launch monitor is based off of.
And just for people listening, if you put down let's say a Doppler radar, and I'm going to say you're pointing it down a driving range, does the Doppler radar go out like a kind of scatter gun, or does it go out like a sniper rifle, if you want? Does it go in a straight line, or does it go in a dispersion?
Yeah,
How does
that's
it
a
send the radar out?
yeah, great question. It's kind of a cone,
Right.
and depending on your radar and how strong it is, my radar in particular, probably about 6 feet, six to
Right.
10 feet is the effective range of it.
Wow.
And there's certainly a lot of trial and error of like where do I need to position it, excuse me, to get the right view.
Wow. So stage one is you've got a Raspberry Pi, you've connected a Doppler radar to it. Oh, and I should have asked, what's the screen? How do you see the screen, or did you just plug it into another computer at the start, or what did that look like?
Yeah, the screen is connected to the Raspberry Pi,
Right?
and they make lots of screens for Raspberry Pis. It's a real common thing.
Cool.
Um,
So you've got like your homemade Doppler radar on the side of Raspberry Pi and a screen, which are just like effectively stuck together, for want of a better word, in layman's terms.
yeah,
And you're then hitting golf balls on the page to see what's happening.
yeah. So initially, I started with a Doppler radar that was about as big as a postage stamp. It was very
Right.
small.
Wow.
And I quickly discovered that that was not nearly enough for what I
Yeah.
needed. And so after some more research, I landed on a commercially available radar that's probably, about this big now, probably as big as maybe a greeting card or something like that.
Yeah, or even like a large iPhone or something. Is that kind of size?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And it's a little more expensive, but it's much more powerful and much more customizable and kind of configurable.
Right.
And that was a really great choice because I've also established a relationship with the company who makes it because they've gotten wind of this project and having some trouble figuring it out, so they're helping me.
Oh, that's really cool. So they're actually giving you feedback on your questions you've got and issues that you're hitting against, or just features you want to try and put in place. That's really cool. Fantastic. So then you're on the range. What are you then seeing in the data and on the screen? What kind of things are, and I'm going to maybe just give an analogy for people that wouldn't, and I wouldn't look at a radar screen, but I can imagine what this is. Is it almost like just background noise? If you're in a restaurant, for example, there's just always this constant whir of noise in the background. And then if you were trying to identify, say, my voice versus your voice, you then need to do some kind of filtration to figure out the thing that you're looking for. Is that how it works?
Exactly. That's exactly right. I mentioned earlier that everything that you want to see with the radar has a very unique shape in the data,
Right.
and it's our job to find that shape amongst the noise.
Okay.
And that's part of what my radar friend Jerry, shout out Jerry, that's part of what he's been teaching me about is okay, so we turn on the radar
Yep.
and we gather a bunch of data, not swinging, not doing anything. And so this is our noise kind of baseline.
Okay.
And that just looks like if you were to plot it on a graph, it's just like a band kind
Right.
of. And then you turn it off, okay, turn it back on, and then step in front of the radar and take some swings. And you can see in the data we capture that the band goes, 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 and then you can kind of see where I stood in front of it. And then you can see a huge spike when we make a swing.
Right. Because it's
And
detecting faster motion or just the fact there is motion.
faster motion, exactly.
So the speed of the movement actually makes it easier to identify there's change there.
Absolutely, yes.
Wow. I say
Yep.
easier. So to give the listeners an idea, and actually, where do you do your testing? Do you do it at a range or do you do it in like a garage or a basement or something?
I do 90% of it right here in my office or in the garage.
Wow.
And then when I feel like I'm ready to test it at the range, like yesterday I went and did some testing, I'll bring it over there and hit some balls and hope everything works well enough to gather some good data for to come back and work on it.
And when you first started, like how many balls did you need to hit just to get an indication of what was going on? And what did your process look like to get the feedback and stuff?
That's a great question because I, as a software engineer, am very used to making a change and being able to see if it works right away. And since this project is both software and hardware, I'm having a really hard time with the hardware aspect because it takes a long time to figure out if what you're doing actually works. And if it doesn't, sometimes you need a new part that takes you got to order it in the mail from Amazon.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I to answer your question, I've spent hundreds of hours trial and error testing.
Goodness.
And for a long time, was just kind of swinging a club in front of it
Yeah.
just to see if that would register. But yeah, like you said, at a certain point, you really have to test it out on a true, you know, situation where you would use it. And, that costs money. I need to go to the range and buy some balls because I don't have a sim set up at home or anything.
Oh, of course, because you need to have something to test it against. So you've got a baseline of even the ball speed and stuff, or you've got no idea what's going on, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Right.
So it's a slow process.
Oh, I can imagine. And how long have you been on this project now, Coleman? How long have you been going with us?
Only since about the start of December.
Really? Wow.
Hmm.
If you've been enjoying the show, please do remember to follow on your favourite podcast platform and share it with a friend. Now let's get back to the pod.
And in that time, what would you say you've been able to achieve, at least for the first parts that you feel are really solid? If you look at if there's some metrics you think are important for people that would be the kind of baselines they're looking for, what kind of things you've been able to identify so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got a good baseline of having a radar that detects speed of golf club and golf ball. No doubt about that. Right now, the current challenge is fine tuning the radar
Right.
because there's a ton of things that I just don't know about it and I need to learn. And like you mentioned earlier, the project is all open source. And so now, since people have been seeing the project and getting excited about it, I'm hoping to have other people contribute who are also interested in doing one.
Yeah. And then just back to the club head speed and the ball speed. So if you put down like a PRGR or a stack radar, or say you were in a top tracer range or something, I mean, what are the numbers like just for club head and ball speed compared to what other readings you're getting elsewhere?
Pretty close. Pretty close. I would say better than Top Tracer,
Wow.
but not as good as TrackMan.
Right. My friends at Trackman will be pleased to hear that. That's really cool. So you've been able to get, let's say, top tracer quality data on ball speed, club head speed,
Yes.
a Raspberry Pi, and a radar you bought yourself. That is incredible. And obviously
Yeah.
hundreds of hours of work. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't want to downplay it. The real crazy part is the amount of work and testing you've had to do, right?
That's right. That's right. And ideally, aside from dialing in the radar, the next goal will be to generate an accurate carry distance
Right.
estimation.
Okay.
And for that, we need spin and launch angle.
And do you get the spin and launch angle from the radar, or do you need some other way of getting the spin and launch angle? How would that work, Coleman?
Yeah. So there's two parts to it. For the launch angle, I also have a small camera connected to the Raspberry Pi.
Right.
And so my thought there is to capture the ball leaving the club
Okay.
and to calculate the launch angle that way,
Right.
like with recording.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the spin, so another fascinating thing that I learned from the manufacturers of the radar is that when a ball is spinning in the air, it kind of wobbles a little bit.
Right.
So the radar waves bouncing off of it will show this little wobble. And so you can figure out the spin from that.
No way. So
Yeah,
effectively, I'm going to use layman's terms, but effectively the ball vibrating in the
that's it.
atmosphere when
That's
it
it.
spins.
Yes.
You can read that from like 5 feet on a ball that's been hit at, say, I don't know, 160 miles an hour.
Hopefully. We're not there yet, but hopefully.
That's fascinating. That's crazy.
I
Wow.
know.
That's
I
really
know.
cool.
Yeah. So that, when it comes to that point, I think I am going to have to get like a net or something to hit in my backyard because I can't be spending $15 every time I go to.
I think we can manage to crowdsource your net.
Yeah, please.
I'm sure we can do that, Coleman. The community will come together and get your net with the back garden. That's no problem at all.
If there's any home simulator companies that want to help me out, that'd be great.
And the things you've been doing, so just to talk people through your Instagram, just talk the listeners through what you've been doing on Instagram to, I guess, document the journey and bring more people along with you. I'd love to hear about that, Coleman.
Yeah, I think that's been a really big learning process too. And what's really interesting is I was just talking with my wife this morning, and people really enjoy seeing you try something and fail at it,
Yeah,
which is fascinating because half of my videos have been like, well, I tried this and it didn't work. Uh, See you tomorrow. We'll try something else. And I think being just really honest about this thing that you're learning how to do and like come along, learn with me. And not only that, but everything that that I've learned is free and available for you to learn too. I think people really appreciate that.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've
Hmm.
been so open, and I think the part that's compelling then is you're saying that people are more interested, or maybe not more, but different engagement levels when you've put a kind of failure out there, but then they see you back the next day with, hey, either maybe I failed again and I've learned something, or do you know what, I managed to crack that problem. Folk are like, yes, he's on to the next
Yeah.
move. It
Yeah.
becomes almost like a little mini kind of drama series that's just playing out every day. And I say mini in the sense of short form, right? It's just, here's a 30-second clip update. Right, what are we getting today?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you got it. It's a fascinating thing. And yeah, I've gotten so many messages from people who are so interested and so fascinated. What's really interesting too is I've gotten a lot of messages of people trying to commercialize this.
Right.
And I tell them, no, that's not what this is about. This is a community project.
Yeah, because let's do the tagline. We recorded, or should I say, you recorded. I hit record and you said it, but hit me with the tagline again.
Hey, I'm Coleman and I've built a launch monitor at home, so you can too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. It's brilliant. So you're basically saying, hey, it's not necessarily anyone can do this, but you're trying to bring down barriers for people to have, I guess, like a good enough launch monitor in the house.
Yeah,
You're not trying to take on, amazing brands. You're not trying to make an elite level launch monitor. You're trying to give something that people could use at home that maybe only want to spend, I don't know, $400, $500, $600 and get something that's really nice, and they've done it themselves, right? You're not trying to go into a high end market yourself.
exactly. Exactly.
And then, so other than being asked on a podcast, which is strange enough in itself, what other kind of weird and wonderful questions have you been asked through Instagram and other places about the journey and how it's going so far?
Yeah, yeah, I've gotten a lot of people who are very keen to help.
Oh, good.
Yep. So that's really great. Interestingly, way more people from Instagram want to help than from TikTok. I don't know if that's an age group thing or what, but just, I did a Q&A for the GolfWorks news site, which was very cool. I also just this morning got a message from uh, a, sorry, an instructor on Instagram named Shaheen Nakshivani.
Right.
And I don't know if you've heard of him before, but I've looked up to him for a long time. He's a really good, smart guy and great instructor. And he messaged me today and said, "Hey, man, I love what you're doing." And it's like, wow, that's cool.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really nice. That is awesome.
Hmm.
Then, Coleman, just filling in a little bit more on the launch monitor and what stages you've come through. So we kind of got to the part you've got a screen, you've got your Raspberry Pi, you've got your Doppler radar connected, you've got a camera as well.
Hmm.
How do they all fit together? Because there's a part that you released the other day in a video that I think would really get people excited, right? And listen, they're excited enough, but you've started hitting stages now and milestones that are really grabbing attention. So talk the listeners through what that might be.
Yes. So that would be the enclosure that puts it all together, which I'm very proud of. And I also enlisted the help of another smart friend. This one's name's Peter, and I've known him my whole life. He's one of my best friends. And, he's got all those big tools in his garage where you can like machine parts and create, I don't know, cut down steel and stuff like that.
Wow.
And I asked him, "Hey, would you be interested in helping me with this project? Like, I need an enclosure for all my technology." And he said, "Yes, absolutely." And he built it for me, and it's really cool.
Wow. That is awesome. So he put together, did you give him a spec or did you just give him kind of rough measurements? How did he put that together then?
Yeah, so I told him I gave him the specs for how big the screen is and how big the radar is and what the radar needs as far as space. And I gave him full creative control. I said, "You go whatever you think." He's the his job. He's an engineer by trades. I
Wow.
told I told him, "Go ahead, man. You design it." Uh, it turned out awesome.
I've got to ask it quite a simple question, but I'm just thinking here, how's it powered, Coleman? I forgot to ask how it's powered. How do you get power to the unit, the screen? How do you do that?
So right now it just plugs into the outlet.
Right.
Yeah. It definitely would ideally have a battery someday,
Of course, yeah.
but right now I got to carry around a big cable with me whenever I go to the driving range.
You need to get a bay that's right next to the
Yeah,
electrical socket so you can get some power on.
exactly. People walk by and say, "What is this guy doing?"
I hope you're putting down a safety cable cover.
Yeah, no tripping over this one.
That's awesome. So you just
Yeah.
take it along. And what have the driving ranges been saying? Have they given you feedback? Are they on board? What are they thinking about it?
So I've got a few friends. I'm friends with the guys who work at the local driving range and they love it. I'm there 2 times a week and I see them. So, how's it going today, Coleman? What are you testing out? Like, well, I got this, and this. And sometimes if it's really slow and I'm lucky, they'll let me on the track, man,
Right.
with the nice golf balls. So,
That's great.
yeah.
And is the range getting any attention through this? Is there people in the area then, getting to know about the range and starting to go there and asking, hey, where's Coleman tonight? I need to see this guy.
That's a good point. They aren't getting any attention, but I should be giving them more attention because those guys are, 'cause-
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
So then
Shout out
what's
to
in your...
Putts Golf.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we'll get that in the show notes as well, Coleman. Anyone we've tagged today in the conversation, we can catch up afterwards and we'll make sure they're all mentioned in the show notes. It's really important to have that as well. So then we've got effectively a launch monitor in an enclosure. How big is the enclosure if you thought about if you were to look at like an iPhone or a laptop or something? What kind of size is it?
I would say it's about maybe half the size of a shoebox.
Right. It's not that
If
big.
it,
That's pretty good actually for, I mean, effectively version one. That's incredible, isn't it?
yeah, that's right. It's just about as big as I would have expected, and no bigger than a GC quad or the Bushnell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That is really cool.
Hmm.
So, and then you mentioned you've got an open source project as well, so we can get that in the show notes. I'll get those details off you.
Great.
But what's still to come? What are the next phases and what are the chapters coming up? Where are we going to? What videos are we going to see next on Instagram from you?
Yeah, man. So one thing many people have asked me about is integrating with simulator software.
Well, that would be next level if you could do that. Wow.
Yeah. Yep. So that's something that I'm very interested in. I don't think it'll actually be as hard as it sounds, knock on wood, but that's a big one, figuring out the spin. That's a big one. I would also like to start building some software to try and gather some data about your session, your range session.
Right. So, like, store information about what you've actually done.
Yes. Yes. And try to try to learn something, get some analysis, some insights from your data. I think that was actually one of the main reasons I started the project is because none of the other launch monitors let you take your data from them
Yeah.
and do something with it,
Yeah.
whatever that may be, put it in a spreadsheet or whatever.
I think it's an interesting point, Coleman, and I don't know if there's maybe a worry from potentially the range owners more than like Trackman or Top Tracer or whoever. I don't think it would matter to them actually. I think they'd be keen on it, but I wonder if there's just a concern of, well, if the person learns enough from this, might not come back. But I mean, the reality is, you're going to hit so many hundreds of golf balls, and there'd be so many failures in there that unless you kind of really put effort into learning what the data means and what you can do with it, you wouldn't learn a lot. But you actually would need to have a purpose of taking the data, right?
That's right. That's right. I think you can learn a lot from that information, and I think that's really important. And that's a feature that I want, and so I want to add that in.
That's really cool. And then in terms of like unit size, are you just going to keep working with the same unit and refining the software aspect of it now? Have you got designs on changing the hardware, or is it just all purely in the software and functionality for the moment?
For the moment, it's purely software. However, I think absolutely I would love to refine the hardware. I would love to maybe have a version 2 of the enclosure. Yeah, as soon as Trackman or someone wants to come along and sponsor me, I'll we can refine as much as we want.
Fantastic. That's really cool. So, Coleman, we'll jump into some quick questions. Maybe not that quick. It depends how the answers go, but just to get us towards more of your own golf. So, favourite golf course, where do you like playing the most? Maybe that's in Seattle area, maybe it's back home in Minnesota. What's your favourite place to go?
Yeah, tough question. One of my all-time favorites is the course I grew up caddying on. It's called the Minnetonka Club.
Right,
It's a Donald Ross course and
there you go.
just a perfect shape all the time, just beautiful. But I would say nowadays it's got to be Chambers Bay. You can't beat it out there. It's a legendary course.
And did you say you've got a friend who's a member there, or is it
Yeah,
like a public course?
it's a public course, but they
Right,
do offer memberships.
fantastic. So, if you were a casual visitor to Chambers Bay, which has been on US Open rota, you think you mentioned the ladies majors as well, how much does it cost for a round?
In the summertime, it's going to be probably $250, $300.
250? Yeah, I mean, that's I'd say for an Open Championship or major championship venue in the UK, that's actually under the prices now that are being charged
Really?
for a lot of them, yeah. Like St Andrews, I believe, is in dollars probably 550 in the summer.
Okay.
Some other places are approaching 600, so that's really good for. I mean, it's still expensive, obviously, but that's pretty good for a major championship venue in the States.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. That's good to know.
And then, other than Augusta,
hmm
what course would you still like to play? Where do you want to get to? Or maybe a top three?
Top three. Cypress Point is on there.
Yep.
Absolutely. Man, that's a tough question, man. Augusta, of course. I did go to the Masters in 2014.
Nice. There you
I
go.
went to a practice round. And I'll never forget that. That was incredible. I got the
Was
flag.
that another year that Rory collapsed in the Masters? Was that 2014? No, sorry, it wasn't the PGA. That was his last major, wasn't it, that year? Rather than
Yeah.
the Masters collapse. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah. I got the flag here right in the back from
there we go.
from the course.
I've got nothing.
Yes, Cypress Point, Augusta, and I would love to play some courses like some deserty ones, like kind of Black Desert in Utah. I would love to come to the UK. That's something I've never played golf, outside of the United States.
We'd love to have you. I mean, honestly, Coleman, I've seen there's lots of groups now on social media, people kind of offering to host folks, even if
Mm,
it's not necessarily their membership course, but just to play with people in
yeah,
other countries and help them out in terms of travel and maybe accommodation, but just advice. Like folks saying, hey, it could be yourself saying, hey, I'm in the Seattle area. I know Chambers Bay really well. If you want to play with me, I'll go round with you.
mm,
Paying the green fee, they're paying a green fee. And then they could help you out coming over to the UK. I'm seeing it more commonly now.
sure. Yeah, sounds good.
We'd love to have you over. So,
Yeah.
Coleman, it's been great having you on. I really appreciate it. We're going to keep following your journey. Just to wrap up, what's the handle for Instagram where people can find you?
Yeah, thank you so much, Russ. It's at Coleman Golfs.
Fantastic. Well, listen, keep up the journey. I'm sure you get plenty of help, lots of people reaching out, and thanks so much for coming on. It's been great to hear from you, Coleman.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks a lot, Russ.
I'd like to thank Coleman for joining me and for sharing his launch monitor story. Do check the show notes for the people who have helped Coleman along the way and his own social media handles. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow Link by Golf on your favourite podcast platform, leave a review and share it with someone who loves golf and people's journeys. You can also find the show on Instagram at linkbygolf2024 for future episodes, clips and insights. I'm Ross McGuire, thanks for listening.
Coleman Golf Tours have helped thousands of guests build bespoke golf trips to create a magical experience. Travel in style with our executive chauffeur travel, whether it's golf on a major championship venue or one of our hidden gems, 5-star accommodation or a boutique bed and breakfast, or is it whiskey tasting on a private boat? Coleman Golf Tours are here to help build the tour of a lifetime. Whether you're celebrating a special occasion or ticking it off your bucket list, embark on a trip that you'll remember forever. Visit www.lomangolftours.com.